Happy Wednesday, Event Hustlers. It is that time again, time for the Event Hustler Show. My name is Liz King Caruso. I am so excited to be here with all of you. And today I may be even a little giddy because I get to have this conversation with Julius Solaris, the amazing founder of the Event Manager blog and now the new head of engagement at Swapcard. These conversations are just really exciting opportunities to catch up with other event hustlers, people who are doing big things in the industry. And it's going to be super casual. But if you are watching live, which I see we already have some live viewers, please do jump in on the comments. Let us know where you are watching from. If you have questions for Julius or you have anything you want him to address, put it in there. We're going to try to get to as much of it as possible. But first, I don't want to talk too long without officially welcoming you, Julius. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Liz. It's such a pleasure. I'm a big fan of you, the show, your business, TECHSYTALK, everything. So dream come true. Couldn't wait to talk to you today.
Well, that's next level, but yes, thank you. I mean, you and I have kind of like known of each other through the industry for so many years. I've had the opportunity to meet you in person many times at different, huge industry events like IMAX and other, just lots of spaces like that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been really such an amazing honor to watch you grow all the work that you've done at Event Manager blog and then, sell that to Skift and then get into this new position. But I kind of know you. I think everyone in the industry knows of your journey, but I would love for you to just kind of give us that career catch up. I'm using titles, but I really want to hear kind of the story behind what's been happening with you in the last year or two.
Totally. And, we share quite a lot. We started pretty much at the same time to a certain extent, right? So, early days of social media and Twitter, which makes me feel very old saying that, but the truth. So, there was a community growing around, event professionals on social media, almost like mimicking what is happening with Clubhouse these days. If I can see the parallel. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
I totally agree.
Yeah, it was a very stimulating new environment where, getting hundreds and thousands of followers very quickly was super easy back then. And growing was a different game. But, at the time I had this fixation with starting a blog. So we're talking 2007 on the likes. And, I did my studies in online marketing and all of that. So, blogs were the cool thing, right? Whereas with the TikTok of today. I had this idea that it could become my business, and I failed at it for a few years, I would say until probably 2011. So for 4 years, good, until we I kind of started a business out of it. But between 2007 2011, it's been a hobby. It's been something on the side that I didn't really know what I was doing with, but I kind of navigated with it. I had regular jobs and all of it, but then 2011 I quit my regular job in social media that I had at the time, and I started to dedicate myself 100% to the blog. Was in London at the time. I moved back to Italy to my parents' house to save money and sort of invest everything in the blog. The past 10 years, then I kind of grew the blog, dedicated myself 100% to it, myself and my wife, who has been family business for a while. And, we sold it in 2019 to Skift, one of the largest travel media publications there. And I left my job as editor-in-chief at Skift, Event MB, a month ago now. So that's the high-level summary of it.
So tell me, when you were talking about, 2007 to 2011, having this blog and having other jobs, what was it about the blog that made you think, I want to make this a business and really to see that as a business? Because I think a lot of people do it for fun or they do it for building thought leadership, but it's not necessarily, where they're growing their business around the blog. But you were very successful with that.
Totally. And, a lot of people have read EventMB through the years because of, our ability to talk about trends and stuff like that. but I'm an extremely slow person and resistant to change in a lot of stuff. I've been very dumb in a lot of things in terms like I couldn't see them in front of me, right? Until it was very, very evident and I could take action out of it. I guess a lot of that is the concern that, you have a family, you have children and all of that. So if you have all your eggs in one basket, it feels very risky to make power moves in that sense. So you got to be careful with what you do. And I've been very, very conservative in a lot of things for a while. So, for me, it's been, at the beginning, I had this idea that I could create enough volume to make a living out of Google ads, which I realized probably amounted to $20 a month for a solid 2 years, right? So at some stage, I kind of asked myself, like, what do I want to do with this, right? And I changed a lot the structure of the blog. I completely changed platforms, names, scopes, everything, right? So I tried everything and everything until I got a proper job in London. At that stage, we're talking 2010. I remember, being absorbed by my regular job, but still have this thing on the side, which I was
Mhm.
moving away from. And I remember, our common friend, Jeff Hurt, sort of reached out to me and said, like, why are you not posting anymore? Why are you not doing this anymore? We need your voice. Like, we need to hear from you. And
Mhm.
that was kind of wake up call for me that kind of told me, I got to give it a try. So I'm going to invest a little bit more in writing and be, clever about the things that I say and do research and all of that. So I invested a bit more. And then, in 2000 and end of 2010, Cvent reached out to me and say, oh, what do you think about having an ad on the blog? So kind of landed on me, right? More than I was uh,
Yeah.
part of it or I had a plan for it. So the time, the moment where I completely disconnected the business opportunity from it, it's probably the moment when the business opportunity landed on me. So I was probably more focused on content and really delivering the core product and building that product. So yeah, then the rest is history, I guess, in terms of the growth. Then one thing led to the other. Yeah.
I mean, Jeff is such an iconic person in the industry. And I think having those voices in the industry of people who kind of like egg you on. I remember similar to you, I was doing Liz King events in the blog back when I was also working full time at Columbia University. And I remember Don Berger from Social Tables. He once came to one of my events and he's like, Liz, I am not going to take you seriously until you're doing Liz King events full time. And it's one of those moments that just sticks with you. You're like, you know what? It's like almost someone else speaking it to you shows you the value in it. At least for me, that was the case. I think those industry relationships that we all formed very early in 2009, 2010, maybe even earlier on Twitter, they've taken us so far. Just that little
Totally.
nudge to get you to think a little differently. Now I am a super fan of yours. I'm a lurker. So I think that I caught an interview with you and Kiki L'Italian, another amazing industry great. And I think you were talking about kind of the sale of the business and how you and your wife really worked hard to get to that point, that was a part of the vision. It's not necessarily, as far as I understood from that interview, just something that kind of popped up and it just magically happened. So can you tell us more about
Totally.
that?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, having your business as a family business, it's a very rewarding. There's a lot of great stuff that you share with your husband or wife or companion. A lot of great stuff. You're always together, which could be a positive thing. If there's a lot of stress as well, and there's a lot of there's with the cycle of how media works, right? Every year you have to kind of reinvent yourself, right? To a certain extent, there's every year there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of budgets and growth and products and competition coming in and everybody starting their own content programs. So it reaches a stage where either you start to scale dramatically or you kind of stuck with the same problem all over again. And that's where I felt I was to a certain extent, with the fact that I really either was going for funding, and expand dramatically, or I couldn't keep up with the demand that we were getting, or with the need that we had to implement in terms of sales push to be there every year, every October, going out and sell ads. You know how it is, right? So very, very tough. And by the way, we always grew. Like, we never went down. Like, we never had years that we're going down. We were growing. Like, so probably it was most in the mind than in reality, right? But I think the realization there was that either we raise funding, and it's super tough as an independent, media organization, media in general. It's tough to raise funding that way, or we get acquired and become part of a team that can help us implement our vision. And that's the second option, was the probably most viable one. And so we pursued that for 2-3 years. We were close to finalize a couple of times that really went down we were about to sign, and then it didn't happen, which is extremely tough to digest. I'll tell you that. But then it happened eventually. So that's the story.
That's awesome. So from that position, and a lot of the work you said, as you mentioned earlier, was really around trends and helping the industry see. I think one of the things I have noticed that was dramatically different about Event MB as compared to any other blog is there was really like a meat there in terms of these trends reports and things that you should know. And it's not just the articles themselves, but a lot of the white papers that you're putting out. And I mean, as someone who also owns a blog, that was one of those things that's like, I know how intense putting something like that is. And that's why we've really never done it. But really reading that and that kind of level, I think with you in the position of overseeing all of this, that has really positioned you well, I think, to see those trends, even though you say that you're not, someone who kind of catches on to things. I would argue with that, I'm sure. But you're seeing this like macro level. So as you're seeing what happens in 2020, what are you thinking from the industry perspective? I know a lot of people in the industry were just panicking. The industry is dying. We're going to never have jobs again. Where did you sit during that crazy time? And then, of course, my follow-up is 2021. What are you thinking now?
Season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel that, it's been, honestly, professionally, it's been probably one of the toughest times of my life, because, all of a sudden we were part of the big sort of media talk as a community, right? Which is very, very tough to see.
Yeah.
Events. We still have to deal with a lot of ignorance when it comes to business events and events in general. There's not an understanding. We know for sure now that there's no understanding whatsoever of the dynamics of events at a government level, at a wider public level. We have a long way to go in terms of, raising the awareness of the dynamics and the impact of events. So I see that. I saw that. We were immediately out there. And there was a demand internally, obviously, at Skift to report on that and make sense out of it, which has been very stimulating and exciting on one end, but extremely excruciating on the other, because you could see everything collapsing altogether. Yeah. So it's been extremely painful to have to be focused and concentrated and deliver that without upsetting anybody, without discouraging people, but without getting them too excited, because I could see, I've been lucky in the fact that, being Italian, obviously I could see how, things were developing in Italy way earlier than here in the US. We're talking 3-4 weeks earlier. So I could see it coming. So I was prepared for the worst case scenario. So that has given me a lot of perspective, I feel. Very, very challenging. Really displayed the resilience of the industry and the people that are part of this industry. Very saddening to see a lot of talent going away from the industry, because you got to do what you got to do. So yeah, and then at the same time, you see this virtual events phenomenon kind of rising, giving hope to at least keep things going somehow. and then almost becoming a thing of itself later on, right? So it's been incredible roller coaster of emotion that I've witnessed over the past over 2020. I still probably haven't processed it as much to sum it up and say this is what happened.
Right.
I don't think any of us has to a certain extent.
No, it's like a major, it's like I liken it to 9/11, except so much more extended. I mean, we're a year into this and it's still, so I do feel like it might be a few years before, at this point, it feels like the world is moving so fast and it's in some ways so slow all at the same time. And so I think it will take a while for us to process what has just happened to our industry. And you try to stay super positive and try new things and see the power of virtual. And now, of course, everyone's talking hybrid but I mean, our industry was devastated in the last year. And so there's a lot of opportunity there. Sure, you can look at that side. But I just think the emotional toll that it's taken on everyone in the industry, it's almost like PTSD. There's just like so many things. I think a lot of people in our industry are really longing to talk about that piece, like just what it has been like on an emotional standpoint, let alone, financial and professional and all of that. And I can't imagine really being in the media industry during that shift and kind of watching it all happen, having to report on it. And then, you wrap up the year, you then left Skift, and you are now the head of engagement at Swapcard. So you've kind of crossed over to the tech side, which is a really interesting switch. What has that been like for you?
Interesting. I mean, obviously, there's no secret that I've always had an interest in technology. That's been the basis of the blog for a while, right? So as much as we like to talk about other topics as well, within the industry, tech has been the core of what we've done at Eventim for a while. So I've had a passion for it as well. I also felt that I gave to Eventim everything that I could, and also some personal things happening and all of that, which made this decision, very, very clear. I mean, it's not something that I seek, that I was looking for, something that happened, and it felt like a great challenge. Swapcard is a company that is growing extremely fast, so it's a very fast-paced environment. So the challenges with that is very, very interesting. It's a change, I guess. At this age, a lot of us are going through that process. I believe it's not only me, where you kind of either stay there, complacent in whatever form, right? Not talking about complacencies in terms of Skift. I was getting very rewarded working with that team. But, in your situation and working from home, a lot of us are kind of in the same mindset. So at some stage you're like, okay, I gotta do something here, right? So that it felt pretty much like that. So, a lot of jumping into the unknown and see how it is. But I knew some of the team before joining that were telling me great things, and I met an incredible team of people now that I joined. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. And I do see that we have live listeners, so I want to make sure that I'm acknowledging them as well. If you guys have questions for Julius or comments, please continue to put them in the chat. I have plenty of questions, but I want to work in anything that you might want to address as well. One of the things I think makes you a really good fit for Swapcard, and I mentioned this on a Clubhouse that we did like last week, I think together, was around community. You posted on Twitter about you don't think hybrid is necessarily the future. It's more about community. And I know that Swapcard is trying to build their virtual platform and the in-person capability, of course, as well, to really provide organizers the chance to use and build community. One of our clients is using them for that exact purpose. Their annual conference turned into a year-round membership. They're doing all their monthly content there. So to me, that seems like a really good fit, and not necessarily related to Swapcard, but in general, can you just talk about where just that tweet that you posted and where you see the industry going in 2021?
Totally. And I feel the next iteration of events is going to be hybrid. We can call it hybrid. People get upset about hybrid. People get upset about virtual events because they're not really virtual. They're digital, they're online. Don't call them virtual. I had to deal with people calling blog posts blogs forever. So, don't get me started on my OCD with taxonomy and how we should use exact words for everything. So I don't want to have a conversation about that. I think the conversation here is about how behaviors are changing for our industry. And I feel that a digital component attached to events, it's very likely it's going to happen. If we want to call that hybrid, let's call it hybrid. Probably the intersection of the two experiences is something that we need to understand better, how that's going to work. We're definitely building product for it. Everybody is, not just Swapcard. I'm seeing a lot of product releases these days, not only from us, that are really about that connection, or at least I believe that really what we should be focusing on is infrastructural more than experience driven, if you know what I mean. Like there's a front end part of things.
Yeah.
If you want to get people to connect online and offline, bring it on, be my guest, design, be creative. Can't wait for that. But the real benefit, or what really needs to happen, is kind of how we plan events, how we plan experiences on the back end, and how these two need to be completely together. So there's a differentiation to be made there. But say that events are going to have like virtual stream and virtual track, let's call it, and an in-person track happening, 100%. Whether these two are going to connect, a question to be seen. It depends on the events. It depends on what you're trying to do, right? So there's no hybrid is the future and that's it. There's a lot of ramifications once you start looking in depth into how the experiences work. One thing for sure, you need like one solid piece of platform, whatever you use. This is not an advert for Swapcard. Whatever you use, there's got to be solid to handle these experiences, because once you start having multiple tools, multiple stuff going on, this becomes a nightmare. This is a nightmare in the making for a lot of us that are thinking about planning 3 events right now instead of 1, right? So I believe that the challenge then, once you've defined these touch points, whether in person, virtual, hybrid, great, be my guest, but what happens after the event is done, right? And something that they tried to sell me as editor of Event for years, and nobody really succeeded, is this year-long engagement piece. Everybody tried, Liz. I mean, let's be honest. Like, we've seen it over and over again. People say, oh, community, finally we can do this, right? And what happened, though, I feel the disconnect was that the in-person nature of events with a very low digital footprint, which have been events up until January 2020, let's be honest. Like, as much as some events were doing exceptionally well, in that framework, most of them didn't even think about digital. It's counterintuitive. Face-to-face is not digital. Well, now it's a completely different environment, right? Where digital is probably going to stick around for a while. If you think about all those people that cannot participate and won't be able to participate for a while, will be able to travel, won't be able to do stuff, digital becomes important. And therefore, you have now really the opportunity to do multiple interactions for the year. We've seen a lot of us moved from 1 event a year to multiple events for the year. So pulling it all together, that's going to be the challenge for a lot of us. And that's what I believe can be really exciting. How? In terms of, I also espousing the movement of a lot of people navigating away from Facebook, LinkedIn, and all of that, and owning your audience, right?
Yeah.
Owning your community. You see Substack, people doing their newsletters and selling it, so that movement there, I believe, is going to apply to events very shortly, where, you're not going to use just whatever. You're not going to do a live on Facebook and that's it. You just want to have it within your community, because that's where you hold everything together, and then use other platforms for promotional purposes. So that's what I see. I could be wrong.
I completely agree with you. And I wanted to ask you too about Clubhouse, because I know it is the hot topic these days. It's coming up on every single podcast that we do.
Totally.
I mean, that piece I think is very interesting. Just that, granted, that monetization strategy still has yet to be kind of unveiled, but just the idea of people getting together, building their own communities, creating their own clubs, being able to have conversations that are important to them without it being determined by an event organizer who's planning your annual conference or something. What are your thoughts, just generally or very specific to the industry, about Clubhouse?
I'm very curious to see about Clubhouse specifically, how it will evolve post-pandemic and how it will evolve, once we go back to whatever it's
Yeah.
going to be, but a little bit more outside of our houses and our homes for a while. So I'm curious to see Clubhouse as a company in that sense, but the impact is made in terms of sort of promoting social audio as an option for connection. That's going to stay. So that's, you already seeing it, right? Twitter Spaces, Facebook doing its own thing. But also even there, right? Even like platforms, not only Swapcard, are multiple platforms now launching their audio-only versions of events, virtual events within the platforms, which once again goes back to owning your audience and privacy concerns, which can be a potential problem for a lot of these platforms going forward if not addressed very quickly in the right way. What stays about Clubhouse? What is about Clubhouse that we like? We like the live audio engagement part. Yes, we do. But, I see most of the adoption came when people started to see crazy numbers in terms of followers, crazy numbers in terms of results. Let's be honest. That's, at the end of the day, that's what we care about. When we see that type of result. And we know for the growth of different social networks that there's an initial stage where you exponentially grow and then it flatlines if you don't keep on giving. So, but it's definitely, what I love about it is it's definitely finally a professional B2B, could be B2B2C type of environment where kids are not involved in it. Finally, because honestly, I cannot relate to TikTok. I don't want to relate to TikTok, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable taking pictures of myself while I'm moving like that. That's not business to me, the way I see it. Some people do, great for them. Not for me. But Clubhouse, I can immediately relate because I can have a topical conversation about something that I care about and have, meet new people. So that serendipity aspect is very interesting. I'm being too long with the answers. Sorry.
No, I like it. And the other thing that I really like about Clubhouse is this ability to access information as you want it. So, I like that you can be on the stage and be a part of the conversation, or you can be behind and just listening. I mean, my life, like many people in the world, is just crazy. It's like billion meetings, billion emails coming in, 1-year-old ramming around, smacking me in the face. It's just never the ability to choose. Do I want to be on video or I want to be off? Do I want to be a part of the talking conversation, or do I want to learn and listen? That I think is really smart for virtual platforms to be building in this ability for people to kind of choose their level of engagement. I think everyone's focused on super engaged. We have to get everyone really engaged, and not that that's a bad conversation, but not everyone wants to be 100% engaged. They want to take what they want, learn the way they want, and then they want to, go on their way.
Totally. And then we're seeing also the evolution also in the mainstream consumption of virtual event platforms as it was in 2020 and now evolving in 2021, where obviously in 2020, the concentration was in adopting a model that worked for in-person events, right? Keynote presentation, have a chat, have polls, whatever. That's it. That's what we're focused with. Now we see that where products and stuff like roundtables, for example, where there's a horizontal interaction within the platform, that's what everybody's excited about. I can give you the feedback of clients that I'm sitting with in demo calls. Everybody's like, yeah, okay, you got that. You got the streaming, you got the chat, got the poll. But as soon as they hear like roundtables and we could have 50 people together to talk with a moderator, everybody gets excited about that because that's the next, that's the serendipitous more effect that we wanted from live events. Nobody cared about the keynote. Nobody cared.
That was the part we're all skipping, right? Like in the hallways, having the real conversations and doing the business. And so it has been such a pleasure. I do want to kind of respect your time, of course, because I know you are a busy man, but thank you so much for doing this catch up live. Why bother doing it as a one-on-one phone call when we can just jump on and do it live in front of our audience here?
So much
Thank
for what you're doing for the industry, Liz. Your contribution is amazing. So, yeah, well, more people should say that out loud. So I really appreciate what you've done over the past year and what you've done even before that.
Thank you. And I was just about to say the same to you. Thank you for all that you have done for our industry. Your entire career has been really a service to the industry, learning, educating, sharing resources, and building that community. You've been doing that for many years. So thank you for doing that. We will put contact information for you, whatever you want us to share in the blog post. And I hope everyone continues to follow your path, and we'll see what great things you come up with in 2021.
Totally. Thanks for having me, Liz.
Wish you a lot of luck. And to those who are watching, thank you so much. Thank you for your comments and your questions. We will see you again next Wednesday back at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for joining us.